A couple of weeks ago, I found out unexpectedly that my roommates are going to be leaving the city in search of better opportunities. And obviously, that news changed everything. This house that we've built a routine around, the convenience of shared expenses, shared weekends, it all has an expiry date now. And all of a sudden, I'm forced to rethink my own plans. And what's ironic is that sudden change isn't new to me. You know, I've traveled all my life because of my dad's career. Relocation was never a question, it was always a constant. New cities, new schools, new friends. And so the inevitability of change is something that I've always lived with. Not because it was easy, but because it was unavoidable. And that's an important distinction, you know. Predictability is what the subconscious craves. Your routines, familiar faces, knowing what tomorrow looks like, that is where comfort lives. And so even when your experience with change, the anticipation of disruption still brings tension, you know, it still brings uncertainty. And so over the years, I've learned that while change is never easy, it can be made easier. And for me, that comes down to 3 simple rules. Rule number 1 is anticipation. If you are someone who's scared of sudden change or feels destabilized by it, then anticipation is your strongest ally. Anticipating volatility doesn't mean living in fear, it means accepting that life will move, it'll shift and it'll test you. You know, when you mentally allow for disruption, whether in your environment, your finances, your relationships, your health, you prepare to respond instead of react. That takes us to rule number 2, and that is projection. Choosing how you frame the change. When you are faced with an uncomfortable truth, it's easy to spiral into the negatives, and trust me, I could have done that here too. Living by yourself means isolation at times, it means more financial responsibility, fewer long weekends with friends, and those things are true, but they're not the full picture. Instead, I choose to see this as an exciting inevitability. You know, at some point I was meant to stand independently, to create a space that's entirely mine, to make decisions without compromise, to focus more deeply on my goals without the background noise that even good friendships bring. That subtle shift from loss to possibility changes everything internally, and I felt it growing up too. Saying goodbye to friends was always tough, but I'd always wonder, who will I meet next? What kind of place will this be? What new routines will form? You know, perspective doesn't erase sadness, it coexists with it, but it makes it lighter. So we finally arrive at rule number 3, which is belief in fate. This one might sound controversial, and I'm not particularly religious, but I do believe in fate. You know, I do believe that life has momentum, it has direction, a rhythm that we don't fully control. And when you accept that things happen for a reason, you know, not as a punishment or reward, but as progression, then you stop fighting reality. Life becomes less about protecting the perfect environment and more about strengthening your inner framework. You know, the way I see it is, if life is going to test you, then become good at being tested. You know, protect your thinking, protect your values, protect your worldview, because you can be placed in any environment, and if those principles are intact, then you'll find calm, you'll find meaning, you'll find opportunity. Every change that I've embraced has given something back, and every change that I've resisted took longer to reveal its purpose. So yeah, that is my rant for the week. 3 rules on dealing with change. It's never easy, but it can be easier. And sometimes the disruption that you're dreading is the exact thing that takes you forward. So thank you for listening as always, and I'll see you guys next week.